Hey folks, just got back from a family hike up here in the local hills and wanted to record a short video, tell you guys a story about something that happened earlier this week. Uh, so I have a client, she was feeling overwhelmed at work, had too much projects on her plate, but that's not the way she described it. Basically, she told me about how stress was beginning to take over, and she was even becoming ill. She had to take a trip to the emergency room. She felt like her face was beginning to paralyze, and all because she had a lot going on at work, but her demeanor was as such that she wasn't gonna say no to her boss. She was pretty much gonna try to fulfill all these different requirements of her, even though her boss probably wasn't the best, person, and kept piling stuff on her plate, including some things that probably her boss was responsible for and should be doing. And so this client, called me in a panic and said, "Listen, I'm gonna talk to the head person here at our office and let them know that something's got to change or they're going to drive me away from the office." She was ready to quit some days. And what we ended up doing was, in talking to her, we started to discover that she was overwhelmed. Yes, I could hear it in her voice. But she hadn't taken an inventory of all the projects she had on her plate. And so she was about to go in and talk to the head person at her office and go in with this narrative of, I can't do this, I can't do that, I'm overwhelmed, this isn't working. But she didn't have specific as to how to fix the problem. And so we spent about an hour and a half talking. But the first thing we did was when she called me and she was overwhelmed, I said, "Well, give me a list of the projects that are on your plate." And she told me, "Well, I have to-dos. I have a list of to-dos." And I said, "Well, that's fine. I understand you have a lot of to-dos, but we need to really understand what are all the projects or responsibilities that you have on your plate currently." And so we kind of reverse engineered it. We took those to-dos and attached them to a project, right? We gave each project a name and a title. And so upon reverse engineering, so I told her, take that to-do list, but tell me projects. I want to know big things that are on your plate. And call me back when you have that done, right? I pretty much cut her off and told her, look, first of all, you need an inventory of all the things that are on your plate, inventory of all the projects that you're working on. And so she did that. We hung up. She called me back a half hour later and she told me, "Okay, I have a list of projects that I'm working on." I said, "Okay, go ahead and give them to me." So I pulled out a pen and pad, and without her knowing, I was listing those down. She gave me a list of about 14 different things that were on her plate. And so we talked about, after she gave me the list of 14, she told me, these I'm not really comfortable with. I think they're beyond my abilities at this point, and they're really overwhelming because I don't feel like I can do them to the best of my ability. But these other ones, I think I excel at. I think I bring a lot of value to the company with these. And I really would like to just drop half of these and keep half of them, the ones that I like. And I said, "Well, you don't really want to go into the head of the company, and tell them, I just don't like these, so I don't want to do them. What you want to do is help them understand how you can bring value to the company based on your skill set and based on your talents." So what we did next was after we had the inventory, it was about 14 projects. After we had the inventory, we talked about, how many days uh, per, per every 2 weeks do you spend on each one of these projects. And so it boiled down to, the first project, she's like, "Well, that's about 2 days every 2 weeks." Next project was about 1 day every 2 weeks. Next project was about half a day every 2 weeks. There was even a project that was so big that it could have taken up all full time 10 days every 2 weeks, right? And there's about 10 days, 10 work days, right? 5 days per week that you work, that we're talking about here. So not counting that one project that could have taken up all 10 days over time to complete, because it was a reoccurring project, updating a certain document, or a series of documents, I should say, a binder full. Um, it boiled down to she had about 17 days worth of work lined up each week, and she only had 10 days to do it in. So her conscious mind hadn't really listed that out. So her subconscious mind, I'm sure, was very aware that, look, we're overwhelmed. We've got so much going on. So her subconscious mind was very aware that she had too much to do in the time she had to do it in, or was expected to do it in. But she hadn't yet developed the skill of saying no in a tactful way that would lighten her load and still maintain the respect of her supervisors at work. And so, we went through the list. We listed out, how much each project would take per every 2 weeks. So it came out to 17 days worth of work that she was responsible for completing in 10 days worth of time. So after we did that, I told her, okay, so let's go down the list again. So let's look at each project of the 14 projects and figure out which ones do you think you could provide the most value if you were able to just be responsible for those. So we went down the list. First one, yes. Second one, yes. Third one, no. She didn't really think it was appropriate. So we went down the list just like that. So once we had a complete inventory, did an analysis of that inventory and determined which projects she would probably be best at and bring a lot of value to the company if she just focused on those. Remember, focus is key when you want to be effective and successful. And what it boiled down to was, when we eliminated those projects that were overwhelming her because her ability and capacity wasn't quite there in her eyes, and she, we eliminated those and only left the ones that she thought she could provide a lot of value to her company. It turns out that it was about 10 days worth of work. And so at that point, I told her, well, there's your negotiating tool. There's your negotiating tool. It was a list on an Excel sheet, very simple, that outlined all the projects, an inventory of projects. I want you to really think about that, an inventory of projects. Very few people do this, but it's important that you have an inventory of projects for yourself. Not just a list of to-dos, but an inventory of projects, big ideas. And those inventories will help you find clarity, will help you make decisions on where you want to spend your time to be most effective. And they will also help you focus so that you are most effective. Obviously, you can't do it all right now. Doesn't mean that over time you couldn't take on all those things, but you really do need to make a decision and eliminate those that are overwhelming you, or maybe eliminate those that are not as much as a priority, in order to complete your assignment at a satisfactory level. And so at that point, I sent her the Excel sheet with the list of her inventory of projects, an estimated time of how much each project would take, a tally at the bottom of the spreadsheet with, the total number of days it would take per every 2 weeks to finish those projects. And then right next to it, a list of how much time she would be willing to dedicate to each project, including, zeroing out some of them, right? Saying I would prefer to have 0 days every 2 weeks dedicated to these projects, which means give it to someone else. Her supervisor can take them back and do them herself, or things of that nature. And now she had a negotiation tool that she can go into the head of the company and tell them, look, I'm overwhelmed. I'm very concerned for my own health. I don't want to quit the company, but it's looking like I might have to if this continues. And here is my proposed solution. Here's a workload analysis Here's what I think I can complete and do and bring a lot of value to the company if I'm allowed to focus on these. And these other ones are either going to have to take a back seat, or you're going to need to find someone else in the company to complete them. I'm not saying it's always, it's not going to be an easy conversation with the head of the company, but it at least puts you in a more positive position where you're being tactful, you're being proactive, and you're actually putting forth an analysis and a justification as to why some things need to get taken off your plate, while other things can stay on your plate, and you can bring that much more value to the company. Most reasonable supervisors will take that analysis and give it some heavy consideration and come back with a reasonable answer. Now, realizing that companies differ, including supervisors differ, that's something to consider. Hopefully egos do not get in the way. Sometimes supervisors have big egos, but that's a talk for a different a video. But I just wanted to share this quick story. And again, quick recap, very important when you're feeling overwhelmed to take out a pen and a piece of paper and do an inventory of all the different projects you have on your plate. Get some clarity as to why you're so overwhelmed, and look for solutions. Find a solution that works for you and works for your company, that will allow you to be most effective, bring them a lot of efficiency, and also let them look for other solutions to complete the other work that needs to get done. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel by clicking below, and we'll see you on the next one.